Hello, everyone, and thanks again for being here. I'm Alicia, and today I would like to discuss the subject of solitude and isolation. Is there ever a time when solitude could become a boon? Yes, I said a boon. B-O-O-N. The movie Castaway with Tom Hanks and his companion basketball Wilson comes to mind. What if this solitude is not something of your own choosing? However, the events of life or the events of nature or the mighty will of the government chooses for you. Remember in the not so distant past, the unforgettable quarantine, curfews, and the mask of the pandemic? But believe it or not, there are those who voluntarily choose solitude and isolation for a season, and others may choose it for a way of life, their vocation in life, as some monks do. Now, I know that the very thought of solitude for most people is often viewed as a challenging or negative experience, yet I believe that it can serve as a profound catalyst for self-discovery and personal growth. And here's why I think so. See, solitude experienced through periods of isolation can actually offer us the unique opportunity for introspection and deep self-reflection that would allow us to explore our inner landscape and help us understand the reason for our desires and our fears, and to help foster a deeper connection with the self and possibly the divine. Now, this process of using solitude as a tool for self-exploration is actually an excellent prescription for finding one's purpose in life, as this would encourage a person to confront their true aspirations and motivations without the distraction of the external world. Of course, this would call our attention to honoring the integrity of our relationship to self. You have to be able to look at the man in the mirror and to accept every part of you without judgment. You have to accept and love the reflection looking back at you. Even if the mirror were to reveal a monster, look deep without judgment. Yes, still want to change. However, start with acceptance. And this is called healthy, unconditional self-love. It is freedom. It is the freedom that emerges out of you accepting all of yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And by doing so, you create a safe space for you to grow and for you to change and for you to be able to heal. This brings me back to the words of Jesus Yeshua. And his words were, "Who is without sin? Let him cast the first stone." Meaning that none of us are in any position to judge another. Not even in a position to judge the very man in the mirror that's staring back at you. Think of it this way, that we are perfect in all of our imperfections. And any striving to change or to be better is simply the natural process of our soul's evolution. So the only constant is change. I believe that periods of isolation can also be immensely beneficial for our mental and spiritual health. In a world where constant interaction and connectivity can lead us to burnout and overstimulation. And for this reason, I think solitude offers a respite and an opportunity for mental detoxification. I want to share a personal nugget about myself here with you. For years, friends and families would say to me, "What is it with you? You always disappear and then reappear after months or more. What's the deal with that?" And for years, I had no emphatic answer. I used to always question myself about that. And then I would, in my quiet moments, I would also answer those questions with all the negative answers that my mind could generate. And that same lazy old broken record kept on playing over and over and over for years, until with the process of life experiencing and maturity and wisdom that time gifts to us as we age, I came to realize that I loved being with myself. I absolutely love my own company. Now, there's a difference between alone and being lonely. Let's understand that distinction. I am alone many times, but never have I felt lonely. My alone time is actually one of my superpowers where I process life. I recharge and I develop in order that I can become a better person for myself and then to humanity. See, it's easy to think of me as an introvert, and some have judged me the same. However, when I get out, I go out grandiose. I go big, and then I go home. I actually love people, but truth be told, some of y'all, I can only take and handle you guys in small doses, like the time release capsules. Forgive me, but yeah, I am still a work in progress, as we all are. A friend of mine said to me the other day, "You're ripping me off." I said, "Pardon me?" She said, "Every day that you do not function in your soul's purpose, what you came to this earth to do, you are actually robbing me the blessings of what your gift is meant to give to me." Then she went on to say, "Whatever you need to do to develop you, do it. If it's taking a hiatus, who cares what people will think or say? But do that. Take that hiatus and make sure that you come out as pure gold." So, having said that, I find that being in isolation is very advantageous to me, as it allows for the cultivation of inner resources and resilience that can help us to navigate life's challenges with greater equanimity, calmness of composure, sober level headedness, wisdom, and sagacity. Moreover, the experience of being alone can strengthen our self-resilience and our independence, fostering a greater sense of self-governing and self-confidence. See, isolation can be truly beneficial for us in so many ways. In solitude, we have the space to explore many different practices that can help to promote self-awareness, personal and spiritual growth. I'm really big on centering prayer and fasting. And many of you have probably heard me talk about centering prayer and fasting. But there are a few other practices that one could explore. Like, for example, different forms of meditation, journaling, nature walks. There's mindful breathing and mindful eating, or simply being in the present moment as best you can. One can engage in art and dance and music or any other creative activity those can be also a forms of meditation and self-discovery. Reading spiritual texts or books on spirituality, personal growth, or philosophy that can also provide insight and inspire inner reflection. We can also do vision boarding or creating a visual representations of your goals. Also repeating positive affirmations or spiritual mantras. There is also yoga, breathwork techniques, healing or energy healing practices like Reiki and Qigong or acupuncture, and movement practices like Tai Chi. There's also keeping a dream journal and exploring the meanings of your dreams that can offer insight into your subconscious mind. There's volunteering and acts of service. There's also shadow work where you can be exploring and integrating the darker hidden parts of yourself, which can lead to profound personal growth. You can also be working with a mentor or a life coach, or simply spending time alone with yourself in silent solitude. There's also gratitude practice, which is big. If you regularly express gratitude, this can actually shift your focus to the more positive aspects of life. Fasting, again, I'm big on fasting. It's a way of life for me, both intermittent fasting and extended fast. And of course, there is digital detox, where taking breaks from technology can help clear a lot of mental clutter. I know that many people have had some marvelous results from some of these practices, and they are powerful tools to help us deepen our connection with the self and support the journey of our personal and spiritual growth. Some of these tools, to each his own, of course. What may work for one may not work for the other. So it's an individual thing, meaning go with what resonates with you or what's been working for you. Hey, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But I do know by my own experience and what others have testified that some of these practices can be very, very beneficial to help quiet the mind and open the heart, to enabling us to listen to the still small voice within us. Most of these practices, they provide a pathway to inner peace and clarity, and they allow us to sift through our thoughts and our emotions and to gain insightful truths about ourselves. For instance, some forms of meditation and present moment awareness can help us to look through our thoughts without judgment. And also centering prayer, that I talk about a lot. That's something that I practice daily, is a contemplative Christian practice that allows me to focus on surrendering to the divine and to imbibe the omnipresence of the Spirit of Christ, or to simply rest in Christ consciousness. I find such stillness and such a sense of unity with divine source during those moments. Now, historically, isolation has often been a very fertile ground for creativity and innovation. Many artists and writers and thinkers have found that solitude allowed for deeper concentration and the free flow of ideas. The lack of external distractions of the world would serve to enable them to delve deeper into their creative process and to explore new concepts and perspective. Figures like Henry David Thoreau was in isolation in Walden Pond, and out of that came a book. Nelson Mandela's long imprisonment, during the time which he spent several years in solitary confinement, and out of that came a greater man, as was written in his memoir. And Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor in the Nazi concentration camp, wrote Man's Search for Meaning. These examples were, of course, involuntary forms of isolation. However, they were, as, to use this metaphor, the solitude was as the blacksmith that blew the coal on the fire, who produced a weapon or an instrument of mastery for its purpose. And had it not been for the fiery furnace and the inhumane, inexcusable experiences, Thoreau, Mandela, and Frankl may have never became such noble gallants of history. They were reborn back to life the greater by the things they suffered. Now, I'm not suggesting that suffering makes great, but simply using this example to demonstrate what solitude and adversity can do to those with an inner drive and purpose. It actually awakened the phoenix within them to unleash their true fire. And here's a good quote for you by Arthur Schopenhauer. Great men are like eagles, and they build their nest on some lofty solitude. Now, by contrast, some examples of voluntary forms of isolations were monks and nuns and mystics throughout history. The Cistercian ascetic monks of the 4th and 6th century were a religious order of Catholic monks and nuns. They were actually hermits and who lived in seclusion, and or some lived in caves in the desert. They were known for their strict monastic lifestyle and dedication to prayer and contemplation. And a familiar reference, St. John of the Cross, the Spanish mystic and poet who wrote the poem The Dark Night of the Soul, was also among those who sought out isolation as a way to deepen their spiritual practices and personal and spiritual growth. These historical examples that I mentioned, they simply serve to remind us to reflect upon the profound insights that can arise from periods of intense isolation and introspection, and to further illustrate that the transformative power that solitude can have. Now, this is something, if any of you are really going to be serious about this is something that you can choose to do for a season. Have a season of isolation and solitude, or as a way of life. You can really be flexible with it. Now, my final thoughts. I believe that the value of this conversation is simply to invite us all to boldly and to voluntarily step into our own unique and personal journey of isolation, to discover that it can be a powerful means of achieving self-discovery, personal growth, and spiritual enlightenment. This is the gift, the ultimate boon. And if you are already practicing this, you can leave me a comment and share with us how this journey has been for you. Leave a comment on the comment section below this video. We would love to hear from you. I want to say that by embracing this opportunity that isolation presents, we can unlock so much of the potential within ourselves, and to discover our true purpose, and to attain a richer and more fulfilling life. Keep in mind that there are multiple ways of engaging this journey, and because I did not want to make this video too long, you can see the extended version of it that I will be posting on my website. I will leave a link for the website below this video. But here are some food for thought, or rather, here are some questions for you to ponder. The lessons from the pandemic. What did it teach us about isolation and resilience? Reflect on the COVID-19 pandemic and the enforced isolation it brought. What was some of the challenges and opportunities that it presented, such as developing resilience, resourcefulness, appreciation for social connections, and finding new ways to connect with others, and also the impact of physical distance on all types of relationships? What about this societal trend of solitude that is happening now in society? Can isolation be both a personal experience and a societal issue? aloneness versus loneliness in modern society, and the effect of social media on genuine connections and this increasing trend of living alone. There's a great paradox of isolation in a connected world. Why is that? How is it that so many people feel isolated in an increasingly connected digital world? How can constant social media connectivity lead so many to a sense of isolation? We need to find some sort of a balance between the digital and the real world interactions. We need to have some guidelines. The answers to these pondering questions and more will be, the extended versions will be written on my website. Again, I will leave a link underneath the video below. Now, what I want to leave with you is this very, very short poem. And the title of this poem is The Solitary Bird. The conditions of a solitary bird are 5. First, that it flies to the highest point. Second, that it does not suffer for company, not even of its own kind. Third, that it aims its beak to the skies. Fourth, that it does not have a definitive color. And fifth, that it sings very, very softly. May you all be well.